Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. You hate me. You don't love me. You're just here to take Candace away from me. I'll kill Candace before I let you take her away from me. Do you hear me? I'll kill Candace before I let you take her away from me. Good evening, folks, and welcome to the Horror Corner. I'm your host, Sean Patrick Erschen. This week we're doing another movie review. This is The Brood, written and directed by legendary horror master David Cronenberg, starring Oliver Reed, Samantha Eggar, and Hindle. Released in 1979 and filmed in Canada. Yes, so let's get inside the warped and twisted mind of David Cronenberg. I don't know what it is about David Cronenberg's movies that really disturb me and get inside my head. It just leaves a lasting impression with you, you know. It's that body horror style of his, you know, that's what he's most well known for, is being the master of body horror, and The Brood is a great example of that. And also films like Shivers and Rabid, you know. These are the types of movies that just disturb you and get inside your head, you know. So yes, the film stars Oliver Reed, a legendary British horror legend, who you might know from some of the Hammer films like Curse of the Werewolf and Paranoiac, and also films like Burnt Offerings. Great actor, and he's fantastic here as Dr. Hal Raglan, this psychiatrist who runs this institute called the Soma Free Institute. And he has a very unusual method of psychiatry that he calls psychoplasmics. So on top of being a psychiatrist, he's also kind of like a self-help guru type of thing. And he holds these very like bizarre sessions, you know, where he basically hypnotizes the patient and gets them to kind of tap into their suppressed anger and emotions, and that causes them to have like, you know, weird things happen to their body, you know, in physical form. Like one of his patients gets like a weird rare form of cancer, and his neck is starting to grow like weird huge lumps on his throat, and the other guy's got sores all over his entire body and his face. And yeah, so a lot of his patients are really out there, you know, in La La Land, you know. And I don't know how much this psychoplasmic thing helps them, you know. And one of his patients is named Nola Carveth, played by Samantha Eggar. And she's in the middle of going through a divorce. Her husband, played by Hindle, his name's Frank Carveth in the film. And they have a young daughter together named Candace. And they're kind of going through a divorce and, you know, kind of a battle over custody of the child, you know. And let me tell you something, she is not all together. She's a few cans shy of a six-pack. In other words, she's batshit crazy. She's out of her freaking mind. Okay? This is probably one of the prime examples of worst mother in a horror film. Just wait till you see the absolutely horrific ending of this movie. It will scar you for life, so it's not for the squeamish. So unless you got a strong stomach, you know, you might not want to stay for the end. But it's just something that sticks with you that you can't forget. But yeah, she's not too tightly wrapped, and these therapy sessions may seem like she's, dealing with her anger, but the problem is her anger that she's suppressed is manifesting to something in the physical form, in the form of human beings. So her anger has actually manifested these little dwarf creatures, these like deformed children, and they're like her actual children. They're not just unseen entities. They're real. This is horror, and we're not dealing with reality, so yeah, we're stretching reality here, so you have to suspend some disbelief, but it does have a weird sense of reality to it, because this is actually inspired by David Cronenberg's life, and he was going through a divorce in his life and a custody battle in court and all that, He once referred to this film as like Kramer versus Kramer, only more realistic. More realistic. But at any rate, yes. So a lot of the patients are not getting well. They're not getting better at the Selma Free Institute. They're just getting crazier and crazier, and like I said, they're getting these physical problems that are like killing them almost. Because of this weird method of psychology called psychoplasmics, and it's almost like Oliver Reed's character Raglan like confronts them, and he pretends to be the people in their lives that cause them distress. Like Nola's character, she was obviously very abused as a child. Her mother was physically abusive towards her and beat on her, and so he pretends to be their parents and stuff like that to try and really work these problems out. But it doesn't work out that way in a horror film. It may work out that way in real life. In real life, we might deal with our anger and unresolved issues through therapy and stuff, and it works. But in this horror world we have here, things don't work out that way. It works the exact opposite way. And these dwarf children start murdering people that, that Nola has issues with. So anyone Nola has issues with or hates or has anger towards, the children go after them and brutally beat the living crap out of them. Beat them and bludgeon them to death in a pool of blood on the ground, like this teacher who, of Candace's, at Candace's school. They have a good repertoire, and maybe there might be a little romantic spark, but we don't know that, But Nola ends up talking to her on the phone for a second because the teacher babysits Candace for a little bit. And she happens to answer the phone when Nola calls the house, and she's like, oh my god, you bitch, Next thing you know, the dwarfs pay her a visit. This group of dwarfs is like, 10 of them or so. They gather around and bash her brains in, with little hammers, It's brutal. And, her father as well. So her father is trying to help the husband because, he knows that Nola has serious issues, so she tries and helps Frank out. Because Frank knows that he thinks Raglan is just a crock, a kook, which he is really, he doesn't really see what he's actually doing to these people, but he sees that one day Candace has marks on her body, look like she's been beaten and bruised and bitten and all this stuff, and he knows that Nola did it. So he confronts Raglan in his office with everything, and he just kind of casts it off as nothing. So he tries to get together with some of the family and his friends to try and investigate, and he himself takes it on to try and find out what the hell's going on, and to try and make people see that Nola is out of her mind, Excellent performance by Samantha Eggar. I mean, she just really makes you believe how insane a person can be. She's mentally challenged, to say the least. But yeah, this is a very scary, intense film. It's brutal, and it gets inside your head because there is a certain amount of realism to it, And, it's this couple going through a divorce. We know what that can be like. I'm a child of divorce myself, so I know that the issues that can go on with that, and it can really mess with your head, it can mess with your life, and part of this film deals with that, but in a very horrific way, So in the end, Dr. Raglan does start to see what's happening. People are dying all around him. People are dying all around Frank. His friends, his family. People are just ending up dead. Anyone that angers Nola ends up dead. So this has to be dealt with, and it all comes to a head in the end at this kind of secluded ranch that Dr. Raglan has, where he takes his patients, and that's where Nola is. And the creatures go to school, and they kidnap Candace. It's a really freaky scene. They just, they're dressed in these little coats, and they look like little school children. They're wearing the same stuff, like winter gear that the other kids are wearing, so they blend right in. And they just go into the classroom and walk up to Candace. It's a great scene. They just kind of surround her and stand there, and she's like, she knows what they are, Apparently she's dealt with them before. They take her away, off to Dr. Raglan's ranch there. And that's where it all goes down, and Frank tracks them down to the ranch, and all hell breaks loose. And like I said, if you stick around for this ending, you will be scarred for life. I'm warning you. Word of warning. This is an excellent film. It's very scary. The acting is fantastic. Great performances. It's brutal. It's gory. It's really intense, and it really, really messes with your mind, It really gets inside your head, and that's what David Cronenberg is best at. Nobody does that better than David Cronenberg. So I do highly recommend it, with caution, if you can handle intensity in horror that deals with real life situations that can go horrifically wrong. So check out The Brood, and thank you for joining me, Sean Patrick Erschen, in the Horror Corner. Tune in and stay scared. Folks, don't forget to grab your Sean Patrick Erschen gear and represent the Horror Corner. Also, check out these awesome mugs we have, perfect for your coffee. And definitely check out the Horror Hangout live stream t-shirt and represent the legacy of the Horror Hangout. Check out the link in the description below this video.